Black boy waved to the train driver every day. 5 years later, something shocking happened. The first light of dawn had barely broken over Pine Ridge Avenue when Jalen Jackson's eyes snapped open. No alarm clock needed, not for this. The 8-year-old's internal clock worked with mechanical precision when it came to his most important daily mission. 6:42 a.m. 18 minutes until train 246 thundered past the fence at the bottom of their backyard. Jalen slid out from under his superhero-patterned comforter, his small feet hitting the cold wooden floor. The house was quiet except for the distant hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the heating system fighting against the October chill. His mother wouldn't be up for another half hour. Nia Jackson worked night shifts at Mercy General and needed every minute of sleep she could steal. But some things couldn't wait. Not even for tired mothers. Tiptoeing to his window, Jalen pressed his nose against the glass, fogging it with his breath. The train tracks lay just beyond their modest backyard, separated by a chain-link fence that had seen better days. The neighborhood had once been a bustling hub for railway workers, but economic shifts had left it quietly forgotten, except by the trains that still faithfully followed their iron paths. Jalen pulled on his blue sweatshirt, the one with the lightning bolt across the chest, and a pair of mismatched socks. He didn't bother with shoes. What was the point? His mother wouldn't let him go past the back porch anyway. The kitchen clock read 6:47 as he carefully unlocked the back door, wincing at every squeak of the hinges. The morning air hit him like a splash of cold water, but Jalen didn't mind. The dew-soaked grass between the porch and the fence would soak his socks, but that was a problem for future Jalen. Right now, he had somewhere to be. The waiting was always the hardest part. Jalen bounced on his heels, eyes fixed on the curve where the tracks disappeared behind Mrs. Abernathy's overgrown elm trees. His breath formed small clouds that dissipated in the morning light. 6 minutes to go. He wasn't always this punctual. There was a time when Jalen slept in like normal kids, when trains were just noisy interruptions. But that was before that day, the day his father had packed a suitcase, had a whispered argument with Mom, and walked out the door without looking back. Mom said Dad needed space to figure things out. But 3 months had passed, and the only thing Jalen had figured out was that space apparently meant somewhere very far away. The distant rumble started as more of a feeling than a sound, a vibration in the ground that traveled up through Jalen's sock-covered feet. His heart skipped a beat as he straightened up, eyes widening in anticipation. A faint whistle echoed from beyond the curve, growing louder with each passing second. And then, there it was, train 246 rounding the bend, its massive engine cutting through the morning fog like a steel leviathan awakening from slumber. The headlights swept across the tracks, briefly illuminating Jalen's small figure by the fence. This was the moment. Jalen raised his arm high, waving with the kind of unrestrained enthusiasm only children can muster. His entire body moved with the effort, jumping slightly as if the extra height might make him more visible. For the first few weeks after his father left, Jalen had waved at every passing train, hoping against hope that somehow his dad might be on one of them, might see him and remember what he'd left behind. It was a child's logic, flawed but hopeful. But then something unexpected happened. On the 17th day of Jalen's vigil, the driver of train 246, a bearded man with a weathered face, had actually waved back. Just like that, a ritual was born. Today, as the massive locomotive thundered past, Jalen searched eagerly for the familiar face in the front cabin. There he was, Mr. Bill Harmon, though Jalen didn't know his name yet. The conductor was salt and pepper hair and kind eyes crinkled at the corners. Today, he did more than wave. He pressed his hand to the horn, and 2 short blasts echoed across the neighborhood. Toot toot. Jalen's face split into a grin so wide it hurt his cheeks. He waved even more frantically, adding a little dance of joy that sent his wet socks slapping against the concrete of the back porch. Jalen Anthony Jackson! What on earth are you doing outside without shoes in this cold? His mother's voice cut through his celebration. Nia stood in the doorway, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from sleep, hair wrapped in a silk scarf, and arms crossed firmly over her chest. Despite her stern tone, the corners of her mouth twitched upward. "It was train day, Mom," Jalen explained, as if this clarified everything. In his world it did. Nia's expression softened. She noticed the change in her son these past few weeks. How this strange morning ritual seemed to lift something heavy from his small shoulders. Ever since Marcus had left, Jalen had carried a quietness that no 8-year-old should know. "Well, Mr. Train Day, your socks are soaking, and breakfast isn't going to eat itself. Inside, now." As Jalen scampered past her into the warmth of their kitchen, Nia glanced toward the retreating train. She didn't understand her son's fascination, but she understood healing when she saw it. Whatever magic existed in that brief daily exchange between her boy and a stranger he'd never met, she wouldn't interfere. What Nia couldn't know, what neither of them could know, was that on the other side of that train window, Bill Harmon was smiling too. The old conductor checked his watch as he settled back into his seat. Another day begun with the wave of a small boy who had no idea that his simple gesture had become the brightest moment in an old man's increasingly dark world. The train continued its journey, carrying away their shared moment until tomorrow, when the dance would begin again. For now, it was enough, this tenuous connection between strangers, held together by nothing more than a wave and the faithful schedule of Train 246. Neither could have predicted how their lives would intertwine in the years to come. 5 years passed like pages torn from a calendar, each day marked by the faithful passing of Train 246. The small boy by the fence had grown taller, his face losing its childish roundness, but the ritual remained unchanged. At 13, Jalen Jackson stood nearly 5'6", gangly limbs and sharp elbows suggesting the man he would become. The superhero sheets were long gone, replaced by plain navy blue ones that matched the serious demeanor he now tried to project. Middle school had taught him that some childish habits were best kept private. But not this one. Never this one. "You're going to be late," Bea called from the kitchen where she packed lunch into his worn backpack. Her scrubs were crisp, but the shadows under her eyes told of another night shift that had run into overtime. "Just 1 minute, Mom," Jalen called back, his voice occasionally cracking in that embarrassing way that made his classmates snicker. Outside, frost coated the grass in early December, but Jalen barely noticed the cold. 5 years of this ritual had hardened him to the elements. Rain, snow, or blistering heat, he'd stood by that fence through it all. The rumble came right on schedule. Jalen had upgraded from mismatched socks to proper boots and a thick jacket, but the excitement in his eyes remained that of the 8-year-old who had started this tradition. The train appeared, and with it, the now familiar face of Mr. Harmon. The conductor's hair had gone completely white over the years, his face more lined, but his wave was as energetic as ever. Today he added a salute, 2 fingers to his brow in a gesture of respect that made Jalen stand a little straighter. Toot toot. The horn's greeting echoed across the yard as the train thundered past. Jalen waved until the caboose disappeared around the bend, then turned back toward the house, shoulders squared against whatever the day might bring. And lately, days brought plenty of challenges. "Did you finish that scholarship application?" Nia asked as Jalen grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. Her voice was casual, but her eyes watched him carefully. "Almost. Just need to write the personal statement." Jalen avoided her gaze, focusing instead on organizing his textbooks. The truth felt heavy between them. Pine Ridge Middle School had announced budget cuts last month, eliminating most of their advanced math and science programs, the very subjects where Jalen excelled. The guidance counselor had suggested applying to Westlake Academy's STEM program, which offered scholarships to gifted students from underserved communities. What the counselor hadn't mentioned was the astronomical costs that remained even after scholarship considerations. Transportation alone would cost more than they could afford, with Westlake being across town from their modest neighborhood. "Mr. Reynolds says I have a real shot," Jalen added, trying to sound confident. Nia nodded, pride and worry battling across her features. "Of course you do, baby. You're brilliant." She didn't mention the extra weekend shifts she'd picked up at the hospital, or the stack of bills hidden in her bedroom drawer marked with increasingly urgent red stamps. Some burdens weren't meant for children's shoulders, no matter how tall they grew. The harsh reality of their situation wasn't lost on Jalen, though. He'd overheard enough late-night phone calls, seen enough peanut butter sandwiches substituted for proper dinners when the month stretched longer than the paycheck. At school, Jalen kept to himself. The other kids talked about new video game consoles and weekend trips to the mall. He listened silently, nothing to contribute. His world consisted of library books, free, the youth center 3 blocks away, also free, and his dreams of becoming an engineer, decidedly not free. "You're always staring out that window during my class," Mrs. Winters commented one day after holding him back as the other students filed out of science class. "I'd be annoyed if you weren't acing every test." Jalen shifted uncomfortably. "Sorry. Don't apologize. I'm curious. What's out there that's so fascinating?" He hesitated. "The 1117 train. I'd just like to see it pass." Instead of the mockery he expected, Mrs. Winters smiled. "You know, engineers design those trains. Mechanical, electrical systems, it's quite remarkable." Something in her words lit a spark in Jalen's mind. Could someone like me design trains someday?" "Someone exactly like you," she affirmed, sliding a pamphlet across her desk. "Westlake has a partnership with the University Engineering Program. Full ride for their top graduates." That evening, Jalen volunteered at the Pine Ridge Youth Center, helping younger kids with math homework. The center had become his refuge, a place where his knowledge was valued, where being smart didn't make him a target. "You've got a gift," Ms. Tanya, the center director, told him as they cleaned up after the tutoring session. "Those kids look up to you." Jalen shrugged, embarrassed by the praise. "I just explain it how I see it. Sometimes that's all it takes, someone who sees things differently." She paused, studying him. "Something on your mind?" The question broke something open inside him. "I want to go to Westlake. I want to be an engineer. But, we can't afford it. Mom's already working so hard, and even with the academic scholarship, there's transportation, books, uniform." Ms. Tanya nodded slowly. "Dreams are expensive sometimes. There's this train I wave to every day," Jalen said suddenly, the words tumbling out. "Since I was 8. The driver always waves back. It's stupid, but it feels like someone sees me, you know? Like I matter." What Jalen couldn't know was that 70 miles away, in a sterile hospital room, Bill Harmon was fighting for his life, his thoughts drifting repeatedly to the boy by the tracks whose daily greeting had given him a reason to keep going through his darkest days. And tomorrow, for the first time in 5 years, Train 246 would pass by Jalen's fence with a different hand at the controls. For 1,825 consecutive days, Jalen had waved at Train 246 and its conductor. On day 1,826, he stood in his usual spot, breath-forming clouds in the winter air, watching the familiar locomotive round the bend. But something was wrong. No friendly face appeared in the conductor's window. No special salute or playful horn pattern punctuated the morning quiet. Just the cold, mechanical passage of steel on steel, indifferent to the boy whose heart sank lower with each passing car. Jalen lowered his arms slowly, feeling foolish. Of course people changed jobs. Moved away. Got sick. The conductor didn't owe him anything. They were strangers who had never even spoken. Yet as Jalen trudged back to the house, the loss felt personal, a small heartbreak added to the growing collection he'd accumulated in his young life. "Maybe he's just on vacation," Nia suggested gently over breakfast, watching her son push cereal around his bowl. Jalen nodded, not believing it but appreciating her attempt. Maybe. Days passed. Then weeks. Train 246 continued its punctual journey past their home, but the connection was gone. The new conductor, a younger man with perpetually downturned eyes, never looked up, never acknowledged the boy who still sometimes raised his hand in hopeful greeting. By spring, Jalen had stopped waving altogether. Life continued its relentless forward motion. Jalen threw himself into his studies with renewed determination, as if academic excellence might fill the void left by yet another unexplained departure in his life. His application to Westlake Academy had been submitted months ago, a Hail Mary thrown with more hope than expectation. "Did you hear back yet?" James asked one afternoon at the youth center. James was Jalen's closest friend, a fellow math enthusiast with a gift for computer programming. Jalen shook his head. "They said mid-April notifications. You'll get in," James said with unshakable confidence. "Then you'll forget all about us little people." As if. Jalen scoffed, though secretly he wondered how he'd maintain his friendships if he did go to Westlake. The logistics alone would be challenging, with the academy being 15 miles and 2 bus transfers away. April arrived with a burst of cherry blossoms and anxiety. Each day, Jalen checked the mailbox before his mother got home, stomach knotting with anticipation and dread. On the 15th, he found it, a thick envelope bearing Westlake Academy's distinguished navy and silver crest. With trembling fingers, he carried it inside, placing it on the kitchen table where it sat like a ticking bomb until Nia returned from her shift. "Open it," she urged, still wearing her scrubs, fatigue momentarily forgotten. The letter inside was printed on heavy paper that felt important to the touch. "Dear Mr. Jackson, it is with great pleasure that we offer you admission to Westlake Academy's class of 2030. What followed was a blur of congratulations and statistics. Full academic scholarship, recognition of his exceptional test scores, invitation to the new student orientation. Joy bubbled up in Jalen's chest, quickly tempered by practical reality. Even with tuition covered, the remaining costs would strain their budget beyond breaking. "We'll figure it out," Nia promised, her smile genuine despite the worry in her eyes. "This is your chance, baby." The following day, a second envelope arrived. Plain white, no return address, Jalen's name and address typed rather than handwritten. Inside was a single sheet of paper on letterhead reading, "The Harmon Hope Initiative. Dear Mr. Jackson, in recognition of your academic achievements and community service, you have been selected as the sole recipient of the Harmon Hope Transit and Housing Scholarship. This award covers full transportation costs to and from Westlake Academy via Line 246 commuter services, dormitory housing for weekday residency, should you choose this option, a monthly stipend of $350 for educational expenses. This scholarship is awarded to one student annually who resides along train line 246, demonstrates financial need, and exhibits exceptional community merit. No application is necessary. Recipients are selected through a confidential evaluation process. Please contact Westlake Academy's financial aid office to coordinate these benefits. Sincerely, the trustees." Jalen read the letter 3 times, confusion mounting with each pass. He'd never applied for this scholarship. Had never even heard of the Harmon Hope Initiative. "Mom?" he called out, voice cracking. "Did you apply for something for me?" Nia appeared in the doorway, eyebrows raised in question. "What is it?" He handed her the letter, watching her expression shift from curiosity to disbelief. "This has to be a mistake," she said finally. "Or a scam." But a call to Westlake's financial aid office confirmed the scholarship's legitimacy. Yes, the Harmon Hope Initiative was real. Yes, Jalen was indeed this year's recipient. No, they couldn't provide details about the selection process or the identity of the trustees. Those were confidential. "But we didn't apply," Nia insisted. "Ma'am, this particular scholarship doesn't accept applications," the administrator explained patiently. "Recipients are nominated and selected internally." That night, as Jalen lay in bed staring at the ceiling, a strange suspicion began forming in his mind. Harmon. The name tickled something in his memory, though he couldn't place it. And line 246, the same number as his train, the one whose conductor had vanished without warning. It had to be coincidence. Yet, as sleep finally claimed him, Jalen couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, somehow, the universe had just handed him a puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit together. At least not yet. The summer before Westlake Academy became Jalen's reality was filled with preparation, orientation, and one particular obsession that consumed his free time: finding out who was behind the Harmon Hope initiative. "You should just be grateful and leave it alone," Mia advised, watching her son hunched over the family's aging laptop. "Some things are meant to be mysterious." But Jalen couldn't let it go. The coincidence was too perfect, the timing too precise. He'd started with simple internet searches that yielded nothing useful, then progressed to asking transit workers at the local station if they knew of a conductor named Harmon. Most shrugged. A few promised to ask around. None called back. 2 weeks before classes started, James called with unexpected news. "My uncle works at the Railway Historical Society Museum downtown," he said without preamble. "I mentioned your mysterious benefactor, and he thinks there might have been a Bill Harmon who worked the 246th line until last year." Jalen's heart skipped. "Last year? When exactly?" "He's not sure, but said you could come check their employee archives. They keep records on all the region's railway workers going back decades." The next morning found Jalen standing before an unassuming brick building with "Northeastern Railway Historical Society" inscribed above its doors. Inside, dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that fell across display cases of old conductor hats, lanterns, and miniature train models. James's uncle, a broad-shouldered man with reading glasses perched on his nose, extended a hand. "Raymond Clark. James tells me you're interested in one of our former employees?" "Bill Harmon," Jalen confirmed. "He might have been a conductor on line 246. Raymond nodded thoughtfully. "Name does ring a bell. Let me check the retirement files." He disappeared into a back room, returning several minutes later with a cardboard box labeled "Employee Records, 2020 to 2025. "You're in luck," Raymond said, placing the box on a table. "William Bill Harmon, conductor for 18 years, primarily on the 246 commuter line. Retired last November due to health concerns." November. The exact month when the familiar face had disappeared from Jalen's morning ritual. "Does it say anything else about him?" Jalen asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Raymond flipped through the file. "Standard employment history. Exemplary service record. Address in Millfield. Oh, and it says he passed away 3 months after retirement." Raymond's voice softened. "I'm sorry, was he a relative?" "No," Jalen answered truthfully. "Just someone I used to see." As Raymond continued scanning the documents, something fell from between the pages. A sealed envelope, yellowed slightly with age, with handwriting across the front that read, "For the boy who waved." Time seemed to stop. Jalen stared at the envelope, unable to breathe. "This is odd," Raymond said, turning the envelope over. "It's not standard procedure to keep personal correspondence in employment files." That's me," Jalen managed to say. "I'm the boy who waved." Raymond looked up sharply, studying Jalen's face with newfound interest. "Every morning at the bend near Pine Ridge Avenue? For years?" Jalen nodded, speechless. "Bill mentioned you," Raymond said quietly. "We worked the same shift rotation for a while. Said watching for you was the highlight of his route." With careful hands, Raymond passed the envelope to Jalen. "I think this belongs to you." The paper was heavy, expensive. Jalen's fingers trembled as he broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. "To the boy who waved. My name is William Harmon, though I've always gone by Bill. For 5 years, you've been a constant in my life, the small figure by the fence whose daily greeting became the brightest moment of my day. You never knew, but when your morning ritual began, I was in the darkest period of my life. My wife of 30 years, Eleanor, had passed away 6 months earlier. My son, Michael, died in a car accident when he was just 12, 20 years ago, but grief has no expiration date. I was simply going through the motions, driving the train because it was all I knew how to do. Then one day, a little boy started waving at me. It seems like such a small thing, doesn't it? A child's greeting. But to me, it was a lifeline. Your consistency, your enthusiasm even on rainy days, your determination to connect with a stranger, it gave me purpose when I had none. The doctors tell me I don't have much time left. Pancreatic cancer moves quickly, and I've chosen comfort care rather than treatments that would only extend my suffering. My one regret was that I would never get to thank you properly, or tell you what your simple kindness meant to an old man who had lost his way. With no family left to provide for, I've decided to use my pension and Eleanor's inheritance to establish something meaningful. The Harmon Hope Initiative will ensure that the boy who saved me with nothing more than a wave will have every opportunity to succeed in life. I don't know your name. I don't know your dreams or struggles. But I know your character. It's written in the loyalty of your daily greeting, in your resilience through all seasons, in the unwavering kindness you showed to a stranger. May this gift remove whatever obstacles stand between you and your potential. Wave to the world, young man. Someone is always watching. With gratitude beyond words, Bill Harmon. Jalen's vision blurred. The letter, this precious message from beyond, connected all the dots, answering questions he hadn't even known to ask. The mysterious scholarship. The train conductor's disappearance. The strange synchronicity of it all. He left something else, Raymond said softly, reaching into the box. Said if anyone ever came asking about the boy who waved, I should give them this too. In his weathered hands was a small wooden box, perfectly crafted, with a single word carved into its lid. Hope. The wooden box sat on Jalen's desk in his dormitory room at Westlake Academy. Inside were 3 items: a conductor's pocket watch with intricate engravings, a photograph of a younger Bill Harmon standing proudly beside train 246, and a small brass key with no obvious lock to fit. A month into the fall semester, Jalen was still adjusting to his new reality. The Academy's Gothic architecture and manicured lawns were a world away from Pine Ridge Avenue. His weekday residence in Thompson Hall put him among students whose family names appeared on buildings around campus. Weekends he spent at home with his mother, treasuring the normality of their small house by the tracks. The wooden box had become something of a talisman. When overwhelmed by advanced calculus or feeling out of place among classmates whose backgrounds seemed so different from his own, Jalen would open it, touch the cool metal of the watch, and remember the letter. Someone had believed in him enough to change the entire trajectory of his life. The story might have remained private, a personal miracle known only to Jalen and his mother, if not for Marcus Chin, Jalen's journalism-obsessed roommate. Wait, so this random train conductor who never even spoke to you left you an entire scholarship fund? Marcus asked one evening after Jalen finally shared the story. That's incredible. People need to hear about this. It's personal, Jalen protested. And a little weird, honestly. But Marcus was already typing furiously on his laptop. Human connection in an isolated world. The ripple effect of daily kindness. This is the kind of story that changes perspectives. Please don't. Too late. Marcus had already submitted a pitch to the school newspaper. Within days, The Boy Who Waved, a story of unseen impact, appeared on the front page of the Westlake Chronicle. Jalen expected the article to be a minor blip, a curiosity that would fade as quickly as it had appeared. He underestimated both Marcus's writing abilities and the public's hunger for uplifting news. The story was picked up by a local website, then a regional paper. By week's end, Jalen's phone was buzzing with interview requests from national outlets. I don't understand, Jalen confessed to his mother during their weekend call. It's just about me waving at a train. It's about more than that, Nia replied wisely. It's about connection in a disconnected world. It's about how small acts of kindness can change lives in ways we never see. As November arrived, marking the 1-year anniversary of Bill Harmon's retirement, Jalen found himself sitting nervously in a downtown studio, about to be interviewed live on Good Morning America. Just be yourself, the producer advised, adjusting Jalen's microphone. Your story is touching enough without embellishment. The cameras rolled, and the host, a woman with a warm smile and expertly styled hair, introduced him to America. He was just 8 years old when he began waving to a train conductor every morning. Little did he know that this simple ritual would eventually change both their lives. We are joined now by Jalen Jackson and the remarkable story behind the Harmon Hope Initiative. As Jalen recounted the 5 years of daily waves, the mysterious disappearance, and the eventual discovery of Bill's letter, the studio grew quiet. Even the cameramen, veterans of countless emotional interviews, seemed moved. "And you never actually spoke to him?" the host asked. "Never," Jalen confirmed. "I didn't even know his name until this summer." The host's eyes glistened slightly. "Yet, he left you his entire estate to fund your education." "Not just mine," Jalen clarified. "The foundation has enough to help one student every year for the next 20 years. All from the Line 246 neighborhoods." The story aired nationally that morning. By afternoon, the Harmon Hope Initiative website, hastily created by Westlake's development office, had crashed from traffic. Donations poured in, small amounts from ordinary people touched by the story, larger sums from corporations eager to associate with such a heartwarming narrative. 2 days later, as Jalen sat in the library trying to focus on homework rather than his unexpected fame, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Jalen Jackson?" a woman's voice asked when he answered. "The boy from the train story?" "Yes," he replied cautiously. "My name is Carla Harmon Reynolds. Bill Harmon was my father." Jalen nearly dropped the phone. "Your father?" "But his letter said he had no family left." A soft, sad laugh came through the line. "Dad and I were estranged for many years. After Mom died, I tried to reconnect, but..." Her voice trailed off. "I saw your interview. I never knew about the boy he waved to, but it makes sense now." "How so?" Jalen asked. "In his final weeks, when I finally came to see him, he kept talking about this kid who gave him purpose. How he'd found hope again because of a child who never gave up on him." Carla's voice broke slightly. "I thought it was the medication talking. I had no idea he meant it literally." The conversation lasted nearly an hour. Carla shared stories of her father, his love of model trains, his quiet generosity, his struggle after losing her mother and brother. Jalen described the daily ritual, the anticipation of seeing Bill's face in the window each morning. "He left instructions about a key," Carla said finally. "In his will. Said the boy who waves would know what to do with it. Does that mean anything to you?" Jalen's eyes drifted to the wooden box on his desk, where a small brass key waited for its purpose to be revealed. "I think," he said slowly, "it might be the final piece of the puzzle." 8 years passed like stations on a long journey. The small brass key remained a mystery for much of that time, until Carla Harmon Reynolds discovered an old storage locker her father had maintained near the train depot. Inside was a collection of meticulously crafted model trains, railway memorabilia, and a hand-drawn map of Line 246 with one location circled in red, Lookout Point, an elevated stretch of track that offered a panoramic view of the city. It took Jalen and Carla an afternoon of searching to find what the key unlocked, a weatherproof metal box bolted to the underside of a bench at Lookout Point. Inside was a journal filled with daily entries spanning 5 years, each one noting the time, weather conditions, and a brief description of the boy who waved. October 12th, rainy. Boy still came out, yellow raincoat, jumped in puddles after I passed. Reminds me so much of Michael. December 25th, Christmas morning. Didn't expect to see him, but there he was. Gave 3 horn blasts instead of 2. His smile could light up the whole train. Bill had documented their silent friendship from his perspective, creating a mirror image of the connection that had meant so much to them both. Now, at 21, Jalen stood on the platform of Pine Ridge Station wearing a tailored suit that still felt foreign against his skin. The Harmon Hope Initiative had expanded beyond anyone's expectations, now supporting 15 students annually across 3 different rail lines. His mother, Nia, stood beside him, her nurse's scrubs replaced by an elegant dress for the occasion. "Nervous?" she asked, straightening his tie. "Terrified," Jalen admitted. Today marked the official opening of the newly renovated Harmon-Jackson Transit Line, formerly Line 246, now outfitted with state-of-the-art engines designed to reduce emissions by 60%. The project had been Jalen's senior thesis at the university's engineering program, a theoretical design that had caught the attention of Northwestern Railway's innovation team. Theoretical became actual with remarkable speed. Now, the ribbon-cutting ceremony awaited, with Jalen scheduled as the keynote speaker. "They're ready for you," said Marcus, his former roommate turned social media director for the Harmon Hope Initiative. The school newspaper article that had launched their viral story had also launched his career in nonprofit communications. Cameras flashed as Jalen approached the podium. Faces turned toward him, city officials, railway executives, current scholarship recipients, and one particularly important guest, Ms. Tanya from the youth center, now gray-haired but still sharp-eyed, who had first encouraged him to pursue his engineering dreams. "Most stories about trains," Jalen began, "focus on destinations, where they're going, how quickly they'll arrive. Today, I want to talk about what happens along the way." His voice grew steadier as he shared the journey, from the 8-year-old boy waving at a passing train to standing here as the lead design engineer for the railway's new emission reduction system. "Bill Harmon never knew my name, but he saw something in me worth believing in. He taught me that moments of connection, even fleeting ones, can alter the course of lives. That sometimes, the most important journeys happen while standing still." As applause rippled through the crowd, Jalen caught sight of Carla in the front row, holding her father's conductor's hat in her lap. Beside her sat her teenage son, William, named for the grandfather he'd never met, but whose legacy had become a family cornerstone. The ceremonial ribbon fell away beneath oversized scissors, and cheers erupted. Jalen's design was officially in operation, a dream realized through the unlikely bridge built by a child's wave and a conductor's response. "There's one more thing," Jalen said as the applause died down. "Every Harmon-Jackson engine will feature a small modification that wasn't in the original blueprints." He gestured toward the gleaming locomotive behind him. Just below the conductor's window was a small bronze plaque engraved with simple words. "Wave to the world. Someone is always watching." As the celebration continued, Jalen slipped away from the crowds. He had one more appointment to keep. At precisely 6:42 a.m. the following morning, he stood in the engineer's compartment of the inaugural journey of the Harmon-Jackson Express. The train rounded the familiar bend near Pine Ridge Avenue, past the Jackson family home where it had all begun. There, standing by the fence in the golden morning light, was a small boy of about 8, arm raised high in enthusiastic greeting. Jalen's heart swelled as he raised his own hand to the window, 2 fingers to his brow in a salute he'd learned from a man he'd never met. His other hand found the horn control, 2 short blasts echoing across the neighborhood. Toot toot. The sound carried across time, connecting past to present to future. As the boy's face lit up with surprise and delight, Jalen understood with perfect clarity that he was completing a circle begun long ago. Bill Harmon had seen him when he needed to be seen. Now it was his turn to do the same for another child whose story was just beginning. In that moment, as train and passenger and conductor became links in a chain of moments that stretched beyond any single life, Jalen felt the presence of the old conductor beside him, not as a ghost or memory, but as proof that kindness, once set in motion, never truly reaches its final destination. It simply finds new tracks on which to travel, carrying hope forward to those who need it most.